Becca stabbed her own father to death. Agnes told the truth to protect her friend, and it got Becca arrested. And Daisy, the girl who started it all by speaking up, now has to live with the fact that her words may have destroyed the person she was trying to save. That is where episode 10 picks up. And trust me, it does not get easier from there. This finale does something that most season endings do not do. It does not wrap things up nicely. It does not give you a happy ending to hold on to. Instead, it peels back one more layer of just how cruel Gilead really is, and right at the end, it quietly lights a match. A small fire. The kind that starts slow but eventually burns everything down. So, if you want to understand exactly what happened in the episode 10 ending, what it means for these three girls, and what the show is setting up for season 2, then stay with me because we are going to break it all down right now. Before we get into the finale itself, we need to go back one episode because without that context, the weight of everything that happens in episode 10 will not hit you the way it should. Dr. Grove was a monster, hiding behind a respected name and a position of power. He was a doctor in Gilead, which means he had authority, trust, and complete protection from anyone questioning him. He used all of that to abuse girls, young girls who had no voice, no platform, and no legal way to fight back. In Gilead, women do not get to speak against men in power. That is not how the system works. That is actually the whole point of the system. Daisy was the one who broke the silence. She exposed Dr. Grove, called out what he was doing, and put it all on the table. That took real courage, especially in a place like Gilead where speaking up is not just frowned upon, it is dangerous. But exposing the truth and getting justice are two very different things. In Gilead, truth means nothing if the people in power choose to ignore it. Becca is Dr. Grove's daughter. So when Daisy came forward, Becca did not want to believe it. That is a very human reaction. Nobody wants to hear that their father is the villain. She pushed back, she resisted, she held on to the version of her father she had always known. But then Agnes came forward too. Agnes, her closest friend, someone she trusted completely, told Becca the truth face to face. And that changed everything. When Agnes confirmed what Daisy had been saying, something inside Becca snapped. She did not go to the authorities. She did not write a complaint or wait for someone else to handle it. She picked up a knife and she killed her father herself. She did not just stab him once either. According to the autopsy report that Agnes reads at the start of episode 10, Becca stabbed Dr. Grove multiple times, all over his body, with wounds ranging from 1 inch deep to 4 inches deep. This was not a moment of panic. This was the release of something that had been building for a long time. After the killing, Becca was taken away by the Eyes. The Eyes are Gilead's secret police force, the people you never want showing up at your door. Agnes had gone to her parents hoping they would help, hoping they would call a doctor or find some way to handle the situation quietly. But instead of protecting Becca, Agnes's parents called the Eyes. They handed Becca over without hesitation. Agnes did not see that coming. She had no idea that asking her parents for help would be the thing that sent her best friend to a prison cell. That is the weight Agnes is carrying when episode 10 begins. She did not betray Becca on purpose. She was trying to save her. But the result is the same regardless of the intention. Becca is locked up, her mental state is falling apart, and Agnes is left standing outside feeling like she handed the knife to Gilead herself. And then there is Daisy. Daisy is sitting with the knowledge that she was the one who started this chain of events. She spoke up, she exposed the truth, and now Becca, the person she was fighting for, is paying the price for it. That kind of guilt is heavy, the kind that does not leave just because you meant well. So episode 10 opens with 3 girls who are broken in different ways. Agnes is drowning in guilt, Daisy is questioning whether speaking up was even worth it, and Becca is sitting alone in a cell, trying to make sense of a world that punished her for doing what she believed was right. Nobody in that school knows what really happened. That is the first thing you need to understand about how episode 10 opens. The students are gathered in the dining room, and Aunt Vidala stands up and tells them that Becca will no longer be attending school due to her father's passing. That is it, no details, no explanation. Just a clean, cold announcement designed to close the door on the whole thing before anyone can ask questions. Gilead is very good at that, making something enormous sound like nothing at all. Agnes is sitting in that room hearing those words, and she is the only one who knows the truth. She knows Becca did not just lose her father. She knows Becca killed him. She knows Becca was taken away. And she has to sit there with all of that locked inside her chest while everyone around her nods and moves on like it was just another piece of school news. She does not make it very far before she breaks. Agnes rushes outside, and the moment she sees Garth, she starts hitting him, pounding his chest with her fists. Now in Gilead, a girl striking a man in public is not a small thing. It is the kind of act that gets you reported, punished, or worse. Aunt Estée shows up immediately, and you expect it to turn into something serious. But Garth steps in and wraps his arms around Agnes to calm her down. He absorbs the situation. He protects her from the consequences without making a scene. Estée tells Agnes to snap out of it and walks away, and that is the end of it. No punishment, which is interesting if you pay attention to who Garth really is and what side he might actually be on. Agnes is not the kind of person who cries and waits for someone else to fix things. She starts moving. She goes door to door, person to person, trying to find anyone who has enough power or enough humanity to help Becca. She is 16 years old, navigating a system that was built specifically to make sure girls like her have no power, and she is doing it anyway. Every door she knocks on is a risk. Every conversation she has could be reported. But she does not stop because Becca is the one person she feels she has already failed once, and she is not willing to fail her again. Meanwhile, Becca is in a cell, and she is not okay. The arrest broke something in her that was already fragile. She went into that situation believing she was delivering justice, believing that killing her father was the right thing, maybe even the godly thing. But Gilead does not see it that way. Gilead sees a girl who raised a hand against a man, and that is an unforgivable sin in their eyes regardless of what that man did. The episode makes it clear that Becca's mental state is deteriorating. She is not eating properly, not sleeping, not speaking much. She is just sitting with the wreckage of everything she believed in. And then comes the wedding. This is the scene that stays with you long after the episode ends. Garth and Becca are married. On paper, that sounds like a rescue because in Gilead, being married is better than being unmarried when you are in trouble. A husband provides a layer of protection that the law otherwise refuses to give women. So, yes, the marriage is technically better than the alternative. But nothing about it feels like a rescue. Becca walks into that wedding like a ghost. Her eyes are wet. Her self-harm wounds are visible right through her wedding dress, and the show does not hide them or soften them. It puts them right there on screen because it wants you to see them. It wants you to understand the state she is in. There is no joy on her face, no relief. She is not a bride. She is a girl who survived something terrible and is now being guided through a ceremony that is supposed to represent a new beginning, but feels more like another door being closed. The wedding is happening at the exact same moment that Becca's mother is being executed. The show cuts between the two events and the effect is brutal. One woman is being killed, another is being married, and somehow both are happening inside the same broken system that treats women like assets to be moved around depending on what is useful at the time. After the ceremony, Garth carries Becca over the threshold of the bedroom and puts her to bed. And then he locks the door. He says it is for her safety. And maybe he means it. But a locked door is a locked door no matter who is standing on the other side of it. Becca went from a prison cell to a bedroom she cannot leave. The walls just got softer. That is the only real difference. Here is the thing about June Osborne. She does not need to be in every scene to control the entire story. She has been a ghost hanging over this show since the very first episode, present in the way Agnes carries herself, present in the way the system fears certain kinds of women, present in every small act of defiance that these girls manage to pull off inside a world designed to crush them. You feel her even when you cannot see her, and then episode 10 brings her back in the flesh and the whole show shifts on its axis. Elizabeth Moss steps back into this world and the air changes. That is not an exaggeration. There is something about the way this character exists on screen that reminds you of everything Gilead put her through and everything she refused to let it take from her. June Osborne was broken, rebuilt, broken again, and she kept going every single time. She is not a symbol. She is not a poster. She is a real woman who fought a real war inside a system that had every legal and physical advantage over her, and she survived it. Seeing her again in episode 10 is not just fan service. It is the show telling you something very specific about where this story is going. The appearance connects the world of the Testaments directly back to the Handmaid's tale in a way that feels earned rather than forced. This is not a cameo for the sake of nostalgia. It is a narrative bridge. Agnes and Daisy are not random girls caught up in random events. They are the next chapter of a story that June started. The rebellion did not begin with them. It began with her, with women like her, with every handmaid who whispered a secret, passed a note, or refused to completely surrender the part of herself that Gilead wanted most. What makes the moment even more powerful is what it says without saying it directly. June does not walk in and give a speech. She does not stand in front of Agnes and hand her a manual for revolution. But her presence alone communicates something that no amount of dialogue could. It tells Agnes that the woman who gave birth to her, the woman she has only known through fragments and rumors and the careful silences of people who were afraid to say her name out loud, was someone who never stopped fighting. Not for herself, for everyone who came after her, and Agnes has just figured that out. The finale makes it clear that Agnes now knows June is her biological mother. Think about what that means for a girl who has grown up inside Gilead's version of family, inside a structure that told her exactly who she was supposed to be and exactly how much space she was allowed to take up. Finding out that your mother is June Osborne is not just personal information. It is a complete rewriting of your identity. Agnes has spent her whole life being told she belongs to Gilead. And now she finds out she came from the one woman Gilead could never fully own. That knowledge does not just change how Agnes sees herself. It changes how she moves. You can see it in the way she approaches Aunt Lydia at the end of the episode. There is a new kind of steadiness in her. Not recklessness, not rage, but a quiet confidence that was not there before. Like something clicked into place inside her. Like she finally understands what she is made of and where that strength actually comes from. June's influence on this show has always been bigger than her screen time. The Handmaid's Tale spent years showing us what she went through. The Testaments is showing us what she left behind. Not just a daughter, not just a legacy, but a blueprint. A way of surviving that gets passed down without anyone realizing it is happening. Agnes fights the way June fought. She refuses to accept that the door is closed just because someone locked it. She looks for another way in every single time. That is not a coincidence. That is inheritance, and Daisy feels it too. Both girls are moving towards something in this finale that they cannot fully name yet. They are not rebels with a plan. They are not soldiers with weapons. They are two teenagers who have been pushed far enough that standing still is no longer an option. June was once exactly that. A woman with no plan and no weapon who simply refused to stop. And look at what she managed to do. The show is not being subtle about what it is setting up. Agnes and Daisy are the next generation of that same resistance. They are the answer to everything Gilead thought it had successfully controlled. And June coming back in episode 10 is the show's way of drawing a direct line between the woman who started the fire and the girls who are about to let it spread. Every great story has one character who operates in the shadows. One person who seems to be on the wrong side of everything but is quietly pulling strings from a place nobody thinks to look. In the Testaments, that character is Aunt Lydia. And the ending of episode 10 does something with her that changes the entire shape of this show going forward. It does not give you the full answer. It is too smart for that, but it gives you just enough to make you rethink every single scene she has been in from the very beginning. Here is what happens. Aunt Lydia sits down with Agnes, who she still knows as Hannah, and tells her that a suitable match has not been found yet, and that the search will continue. A routine conversation on the surface, the kind of administrative update that Gilead runs on. But Agnes does not let it stay routine. She looks at Aunt Lydia and brings up her mother. Not her Gilead mother, her real mother. June. She mentions June by name, quietly, deliberately, like she is placing a card on the table and waiting to see how the other person reacts. What happens next is the moment the entire episode has been building toward. Aunt Lydia does not flinch. She does not report Agnes for speaking out of turn. She does not shut the conversation down the way any loyal servant of Gilead would. Instead, she pauses and she says that she knew June quite well. And then she says the one thing that lands like a stone dropped into still water. She tells Agnes that the thing she always admired about June was that she never gave up. Sit with that for a second. Aunt Lydia, one of the most powerful women in Gilead's entire structure, the woman responsible for training and controlling handmaids, the woman who has been present at some of the most brutal moments this world has produced, is sitting across from June's daughter and telling her that she admired June's refusal to quit. That is not a neutral statement. That is not small talk. In Gilead, admiring a woman like June is practically a confession. The question the show has been slowly circling all season is whether Aunt Lydia is connected to Mayday. Mayday is the underground resistance network operating inside and outside of Gilead. The people who pass information, move women to safety, and work quietly to dismantle the system from the inside. In the original book by Margaret Atwood, Aunt Lydia was a Mayday spy from the very beginning. Her entire career inside Gilead was a performance. Every harsh word, every punishment, every act of loyal service was a cover for something much more dangerous happening underneath. The show has not confirmed this yet. It is being careful about when it reveals that hand. But the ending of episode 10 is loaded with clues pointing in that direction. The fact that Aunt Lydia specifically paired Agnes and Daisy together at school was not random. Think about who these two girls are. Agnes is June's biological daughter. Daisy is a girl from outside Gilead, with connections to the resistance. Putting them in the same space, letting them find each other, letting them build a friendship that would eventually turn into something stronger. That is not a coincidence. That is a move. Someone made that happen on purpose, and Aunt Lydia is the one with the power, and the position to make exactly that kind of move without anyone questioning it. When Agnes mentions June so openly, and Aunt Lydia realizes that Agnes now knows the truth about where she comes from, something shifts in Lydia's expression. She is recalculating. She is looking at this girl in front of her and understanding that Agnes is no longer just a student she is managing. Agnes is June's daughter, and Agnes knows it, and Agnes is not afraid to say it out loud in a room with one of Gilead's most senior aunts. That takes a specific kind of nerve. The same kind of nerve Lydia once watched June display over and over again before June finally got out. This is the moment Aunt Lydia decides something. The show does not spell it out for you. It does not give you a voiceover explaining what she is thinking. But the way the scene is written and performed tells you clearly that a decision is being made in that room. Lydia is not just going to keep watching these girls from a distance anymore. Something is about to change in how she operates around them, and that is exactly where Season 2 picks up the thread. Because everything the finale put in place is pointing toward one thing. Agnes knows who she is. Daisy knows what she is willing to fight for. Becca is alive and behind a locked door with a husband who may not be who he appears to be. Garth married into the closest possible proximity to a potential loose cannon, and nobody in Gilead has figured out yet that the cannon is already loaded. And somewhere in the background, Aunt Lydia is watching all of it. Maybe managing it, maybe even orchestrating parts of it. With the patience of someone who has been playing a very long game for a very long time. The title of this episode is Secateurs. That is the word for pruning shears. the tool you use in a garden to cut away the parts that are dead, diseased, or growing in the wrong direction so that something healthier can come through. The show chose that word deliberately, because that is exactly what this finale does. It cuts. It removes what is no longer serving the story. Becca's innocence is gone. Agnes's blind trust in the system is gone. Daisy's guilt over speaking up is being replaced by something harder and more purposeful. And the version of Gilead that thought it had these girls under control is about to find out that pruning a plant does not kill it. Sometimes it just makes it grow back stronger and in a direction you were not expecting. Season 1 was always going to be the slow burn, the setup. The part of the story where you learn who these people are before everything they are gets tested. The finale understood that assignment completely. It did not try to blow everything up in one episode. It did its job quietly and carefully. It planted the seeds, handed the girls the tools, and walked away. What grows from here is what Season 2 is for, and if this finale is any indication of the direction this show is heading, Gilead should be very afraid of what is coming next.